Alright, Mr. 106, Mr. Willard, old Gatekeeper here. This is actually a buddy of yours amplifier that you swooped down from Bermuda all the way down here in the Georgia area. Dropped this off with me yesterday. And this thing had quite a few problems. It pretty much had multi levels of issues, and I'm going to do my best to explain them all in a systematic chronological order if I can remember. So here are the transistors that were in there. Okay, I've got my phone plugged up to a charger, so I'm not going to be able to stretch my phone like where I need to be. Alright, these are actually the original HGs back before they completely changed the whole design after I contacted them. These are the original HGs, okay, which Texas Star only bought about 1,000 of these and was only able to use a portion of them. Then they went directly to DEI after that. So 3 of these were blown. One of them's base lead was actually already broke off. I don't know if you had noticed that or not with it sitting in the box. And one of them is actually still alive, believe it or not. So I'll let you take this back home with you if you want. So you basically told me you just want to get this thing up and running. So about the best affordable deal to do with that, just to get this thing up and running for your buddy, is I grabbed 4 matching DEIs that had came out of a working Texas Stars, probably a brand new one for all I know. I took so many of them out and replaced them with HGs or Toshibas. You just want to get this thing working. That's what you wanted to do, and you didn't want to have to pay a lot of money doing it or anything. So just basically wanted to get it working as cheap as possible. Just get the dang thing working. One of them type of deals. So we put 4 matching DEIs in here for you. And you know, I'm definitely not a fan of DEIs whatsoever. If you ever you can tell your buddy if he ever has any problem in the future, try to slap 4 Toshibas in this thing, or some HGs or something. But all right, first off, the trace up under the board that carries the power to the switches, which there sends the power to the relay, which there sends the power to the bias through this 10 microhenry choke right here. This trace was blown all the way up to the relay. Okay, so the relay was getting no power. In the midst of that, it blew the diode. That diode right there as well. Okay, so it popped that diode. Some people call them a clamping diode. Make sure that any kind of electromagnetic, any kind of static electricity build up in that coil gets shunt to ground. So had to replace that diode once I figured out that bad boy was popped. Okay, you had already had a wire soldered from here, which would be a good idea to have this actually soldered on the fuse side of things, but I'll actually do that after the video. Just, you know, be nice to have it on this side if you have fuses. And that's something else I need to point out to you also. I noticed even when you were brought this amp out of the car that one of the fuses had fell on the ground. This fuse holder right here is broke. Look at this. I can just touch it a little. Look. If you could have afforded it, I would have done just a power wire upgrade to this thing, man, because it needs it. But this thing comes out very easy. You need to make sure you tell your buddy about that, okay? That thing is the fuse holder is broken. It's in now and making connection, but it's broken. So if you bump it pretty good, it's going to fall out. Maybe you can do a power wire upgrade to it when you get to the house or something. But anyway, so you had soldered this wire from there to give the switches power, and you had it in the right place. That was good. Okay. The only thing that was not good though was you had this jumper, which I have no idea why. I don't think you did either. You had this jumper soldered to that same lead over to this switch on that lead right there, on that lead of the switch right there. That was sending power to the RF rail right here to the relay, meaning you had DC voltage sitting on the RF line. I'm not sure what that was about. Maybe you were trying to get power over to the preamp. I don't know what you were attempting to do, but I don't even know if that caused any damage or not. As soon as I seen that, I just removed it. Next thing was this jumper right here, which is carrying the RF from here, which carries it on to the circuit, to the input splitter. It had a cold solder joint and literally just came up. It was barely even connected. There was a 2222 transistor right here. I went ahead and replaced it with a brand new 2907. The king transistor over here was blown. Okay, so I had to replace that. Of course, this is the new 10 microhenry choke that you brought with you that I replaced. This electrolytic had popped the very first time I attempted to test this thing due to that diode over there. These things are not easy to replace actually without taking the board out, since they've got so short of leads. But luckily I was able to do it without taking the board out, so I had to put you in a new cap in here for your delay capacitor. Okay. I consulted with my buddy over at Texas Star about 2 years ago, and he basically told me that he didn't agree with this. You know, they're putting these on all the newer Texas Stars. He said what he has seen, that he has noticed he's had some issues with oscillation. The box is sticking, and he's also been having little issues with this right here. And you ask yourself, why does Texas Star use 5-watt resistors right here? Because this is an AB bias box, and their bias circuit is basically the simplest. It can't get no more simple. About the only other way it could get even simple if you just had one resistor as a current limiting resistor biasing something. This is the most simplest bias circuit known to man, a voltage divider circuit. And if this box sticks or something, gives it a better chance of not frying one of these resistors on the feedback circuit, because they will take a beating, as you can see right here. And if you notice, you don't see many Texas Stars with these blown or hot. I've definitely seen it, but you don't see it a lot. But that's their whole reason behind why they use 5-watt resistors right there. And luckily I have a whole bag I got from my buddy at Texas Star a few years back. So I went ahead and replaced all your feedback, since you had that one blown. And so I just went ahead and replaced all your feedback circuits right here. This 1000 picofarad metal back here was not soldered very well at all. It appeared that someone had took it off or something, maybe to check it or something. I don't know. I honestly do not know about that, but it was not on real. Alright, so after I got done with all of that, first thing I want to do is shake the bias. There was there was three or four volts of bias going to this 2-pin section. This section was fine, actually. It was reading a little low, but this section was fine. So I'm like, what the heck's causing this to happen? I get down here and look, and the 1.6 ohm resistor right here was not even soldered to the pad. It was just sitting on the pad, not soldered to it. So I soldered that down, and I noticed that it dropped from 4 volts down to about 2 volts, which is still not good and will fry a dang transistor quickly. So then I removed it and looked, and the dang thing, I don't know who done this, but it's not a resistor. It is an inductor. It's the first time I've ever seen this happen before. I guess someone blew the resistor and they ordered a replacement, but ordered an inductor, a 1.6 microhenry inductor instead. And it fooled me, because it looks, inductors use the same, a lot of inductors use the same color code as a resistor does. A lot of them do. So this looked exactly like the regular resistor, but it was an inductor. So that's why that bias was like that. And the 2 pills that came out of this section were 2 that was completely blown. I don't know if it was because of that, but if it was keyed up like that, yeah. So basically at that point, the only thing that was cutting down the bias at all was the 25 ohm sandbar with the 210 ohms in conjunction. See, a lot of people don't look at it like this, but what this bias circuit consists of is, of course, your 210 microhenry chokes, okay? But in the resistor department is you've got this 25 ohm resistor, okay? And technically you have 3 resistors going to ground. The 1.6 along with the 210 ohms to ground. But you basically add all of them together in parallel, okay, in a sense, to ground. All right, and that's the voltage divider circuit. Even if one of these 10 ohms are not on, the box will still run, but the bias will be off a little. So what was going on is this 1.6 wasn't even in circuit. So instead of having that, you had 5 ohms going to ground instead of whatever it's supposed to be. I can't remember what you put them 3 resistors together, what you get. So that's what was throwing that section off. It didn't have enough resistance on the divider circuit. So that's the first time that's ever happened to me. This 10 ohm right here was actually had gotten very hot and was discolored. I put all 4 new 10 ohms for you. You brought this, well, not this one, but you brought another combiner. It actually went up in smoke when I figured out about the diode issue. So I had to get you another combiner to put on there for you. I think that's about it, brother. I'll put the 330s back on for you. And this SO239, I had to go in here and kind of move the clips towards each other a little bit. It was not making the best connection like it really should. So, but we got it up and running for you, man. I'm not going to get nuts with this thing, man. I'm just going to show it working. I just got the D-rail radio hooked up. We'll give it a little bit of drive and just show this bad boy working. Alright. Got the 1000 watt slug. Dude. It's about 350 bird. PEP. Right there, about 700 watts. So that's good to go. That's on 15.2 volts. 15.2 volts, and I was giving it right there at about 15-16 bird drive, about 40 peak or so, 50 peak, something like that. Of course, it ain't gonna be no dang power monster like if it had 4 Toshibas in it or something. But we got it back working for you, man. It took a bit. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention was since the trace was blown feeding the relay, that's what this extra wire is right here. Maybe that's what you were attempting to do once I was looking at it. Maybe you were attempting to try to make the relay get power, which would not have been a good thing. Noting what else was wrong with it. So you can look. That's what this power switch is doing on the Texas Star. That's that right there is where the power, where it gets B plus power from the hot bus. Okay, on the main board. And then this right here is your normally closed switch, meaning when the switch is off, this is not touching. Okay, I think that should normally open. I think that should normally close, these three right here. But anyway, so that's the orientation of the main switch right there. So when you turn it on, it sends the power here onto the 10 microhenry choke. All right, I've ate up enough time. There you go. It's working, big brother. All right, we'll see you.